With just 4 weeks left until competition day, there was no time to waste. The tank still needed the final details, painting, weathering, workable tracks, and the countless smaller details adding, all without making too many catastrophic mistakes. The race was well and truly on, so let's get cracking. The first point of call was adding some of the smaller details. Some, like the machine gun, were from the kit. Others, like these lamp guards, are 3D printed, along with the spare track links. The remaining tools were cemented in place, then the resin lamps are fitted using Gorilla Superglue. Pressure was already starting to mount, as I proceeded to stick the spare tracks in the wrong position. Luckily, I noticed fast enough to pull them off and stick them in the correct place, and then I had to proceed to clean up the area from the remaining superglue. To add some further detail to the side of the vehicle, I drew up and printed this rack to fit some jerry cans in. Unlike the lamp guards which I got from Colts 3D, the jerry cans are available on my Etsy, and the file for the rack will be going on my Patreon. Link to both are in the description. The machine gun is attached to the back, then it's time to add some camouflage netting. For this, I'm using cheesecloth. It took me a fair while to find some that was the right size for scale netting, but this stuff is just about perfect. Again, I'll leave a link for it in the description. To apply the netting, I first get an appropriate size I need, cutting it down with a pair of scissors. Then I play around with a few configurations, just getting a rough idea of how I want it to look. Next, I mix up a PVA and water solution. I will soak the netting in this. If you have a container long enough to lay the netting flat, then do it, because as you can see here, it took a fair while to untangle it. Once unwrapped, I then start forming the netting around the tank. This is quite a fun process to do, and as the PVA takes a fair while to dry, you get plenty of playtime, so you can get it looking just right. Once happy, we either need to let it fully dry, or use a hairdryer to speed it up, like I am here. If you're using the hairdryer, please be careful. Don't use it on high heat, as it can damage the plastic. Once fully dried, the last thing to do is carefully unpick the netting and remove it to be painted separately later on. With the netting done and waiting to be fitted later, it's time to uplift the cast texture on both the mantlet and the transmission housing. This is done with a putty and cement solution, stippled to the cast areas using an old stiff brush. It's also applied to the counterweights of the turret, as this was also a cast metal. It really is a quick and effective way to boost that cast detail on armor projects. Once done, we are ready to paint. The first stage of this process is a spot of masking to protect the interior detail. I press the tape down on my board before use. This just lowers the tack level. This is crucial if you're using the wrong tape like I am here. I then mask the areas and carefully cut the tape in situ using a sharp scalpel. As always, the paintwork starts with a coat of primer. This will help the paint adhere to the surfaces of the tank. Weapon of choice for this task is the Galeri Mobius 3.0. This has been a mainstay of my arsenal for some time now, but as you can tell by the shine, this was its first outing. The VMS primer can be sprayed straight from the bottle, and I lay an even coat over the entire vehicle, being extra careful, avoiding the interior from the underside. To give the main paintwork some variation, I apply some pre-shading. This is done using XF1 flat black mixed 50-50 with acrylic thinner, then painted on all edges of panels and details. For the final finish, I'm using the same mix I did on the interior, 5 parts XF61 dark green to 1 part XF3 flat yellow. This is mixed 50-50 with acrylic thinner. It is then applied in light coats, making sure we don't completely lose our pre-shading. If you have liked what you've seen of the Galeri Mobius, there's a link in the description where you can get 10% off all Galeri items. Around the edges of the interior and the turret, there are still some areas left unpainted that I couldn't get with the airbrush. So, I used the same paint mix to carefully paint this with a fine brush. The final task to the paintwork is to lock it all in with some varnish. I am using VMS satin varnish for this task, and like the primer, it's sprayed straight from the bottle, laying a healthy coat all over the vehicle. Once cured, it's time to add the decals. Luckily, there are not many on the Achilles, just 4 to be exact. First, a coat of gloss is applied on the 4 areas, and whilst this cures, the decals are cut out and the first one is soaked in water. Then, using micro set, I apply the decal into position. I then use cotton buds to press out all the air and water from underneath. This is repeated on the other 3. Then a coat of satin varnish is again added to get rid of that unnatural shine and lock them all in. Decals done. Now we are left with a very clean looking M10 Achilles, but with one key feature missing, the tracks. If you've seen any of my previous projects, you will know I have a slight obsession with workable track links, and these are my latest creation. I have since developed a stand that massively aids construction, but in short, there is a long pin that goes through the track pad with a connecting guide horn for the other side. This is then glued in place using CA glue. I make them in sections, then stick them together to get a full length of workable links. These are now available on my Etsy if you're interested. Again, I'll put the link in the description. I now test fit to the tank. The first time, they were way too loose. So I snip off a couple of links, and this time, much better. They are then removed to be painted separately later on, and in the meantime, I prepare myself for a spot of chipping. I have found the easiest way to add some chips to armor subjects is a 2-step method, and this starts with a slightly lighter green to the base coat. The tool for the job is a cut-up art sponge with the ends roughed up to give it uneven chips. This is clamped in some reverse action tweezers. Then the sponge is soaked in the paint, decanted in some kitchen towel, and tested on the underside. It's important to test the finish on an area that can barely be seen, just so you get the colour right. It also gets you in the groove, ensuring you're getting the pressure on the sponge correct. Once sponged, I come in with a fine brush to join up some of the chips together and add wear to the edges of panels and details. That's the process for step 1 of the chipping. This now just needs to be done over the entire tank. I wanted the vehicle to look very worn, so I am adding a lot of chips, but you can go lighter if you want a fresher looking tank. There is no rushing this process. Done right, and it can transform your armor subjects and look absolutely amazing. Rushed, and it can look unnatural and ruin the paintwork. Once we are happy with the amount of light chips, it's time for stage 2, adding some deeper ones using a steel grey. This is entirely done with a fine brush, focusing on the middle of big chips and edges of panels. If you're enjoying the series so far, please do remember to hit those like and subscribe buttons, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and check out my Patreon for extra helpers, STL files, masks and guides. And after quite the chipping session, it is done. I was very happy with how this came out. Took an entire day, even when time was pressured, but it's well worth it, in my opinion. With the main paintwork complete, it's now time to add some details. I start with some German grey to paint the track cleats. I will add variation to these later before adding a rust coat, but the German grey provides a solid base. Next is some white for the inside of the hatch. I have been told these interior elements should have been the same green as the outside, which in my mind does make sense. But when doing research, I found a lot of mixed references, so I went for the white for some visual interest. Again, this will be weathered later with some oils to tone down that white glare. For the tools, I add some white and gunmetal grey to the German grey to create a metallic medium grey. Yes, that's a lot of greys. This just adds a little metallic shine to the metal parts of the tools. Back again with the German grey for the spare links. Yeah, I forgot to do these earlier. A pale brown is used for the wooden elements. Then finally a gunmetal grey for the tow cable. Again, this and the rest of the details will be weathered later on. Now for the fiddly part, some rubber black for the tyres. A quick tip, to make rubber black or oily effects, just add blue. This does the trick. Here is where I wish I'd left the bogies off the vehicle, as this was an absolute pain to do. I'm going to skip over this stage of the painting as it took way too long for my liking and it did my head in. But it did come out alright in the end. The whole thing was starting to take shape now, but still too clean for my liking, so it's time for my favourite technique, some graphite. This really amplifies the grey from the chipping, giving the edges a raw metal shine. It's especially good on the drivetrain, where metal would be in constant contact with the tracks, naturally rubbing all the paint off to bare metal. Once done, I lock in the effect with a coat of satin varnish. This also protects the fresh paintwork from the weathering effects to come. I should have done this next bit before the clear coat really, but I added some tonal difference to the spare links and cleats with a lighter flat grey. That's all the painting done for now, so it's time to make it look more in action with some mud on the lower hull. I start by mixing up a muddy wash using pigments and enamel thinner and start coating the lower hull. Again, here I wish I'd left them bogies off the tank. It was a lot of effort to get behind the drivetrain. Once I have a layer added, I speed up the drying time with a hairdryer. Then it's back with another layer, trying to do a streaking up and down motion behind the suspension. Again, I dry with a hairdryer and blend with a cotton bud. This is just layered and repeated until I am happy with the result. Then on the other side, disaster. This is what happens when you use the hairdryer on high heat. The rushing really bit me on the behind this time. I had to rip the bogies off the hull and do my best to repair the damage of glue and filler and pass it off as battle damage. The wheels would no longer turn, but this was the least of my worries, with the deadline looming. There was no time to waste though, as I then dive in with a dark rust wash. This I apply all over the raw metal elements, including the chips. Then I blend it and streak it with enamel thinner. I will be getting the rust enamels out again later to emphasize more of the rusty elements, but I just wanted to get the initial bodywork rust done so I could fit the camouflage netting. The bogies have now cured and are now ready to be attached. Like previously mentioned, they are now a tad crooked, but thankfully it's on the side that the building will be, so won't be openly visible on the diorama. Back to the camouflage netting, and I am now going to add some colour. This is painted in XF81 RAF Dark Green 2. I wanted there to be a difference between the net colour and the bodywork finish. The net is then airbrushed thoroughly, ensuring every last bit has a good coat. The last thing we want is white showing through once fitted. To fit the netting for the final time, I loosely put it into position, then soak it in place using a PVA water solution. This will re-soften the PVA in the netting and allow us to mould it to the tank. The PVA once cured will also hold it in place. With the netting fitted, it's really starting to look like an in-action combat vehicle now. I put it aside to cure properly before moving on. I was a bit scared to use the hairdryer at this stage. And I now move on to adding some life to the workable tracks. The base layer for the tracks is this XF24 dark grey. I have found this to be a good base layer for steel tracks and the rust pigments to come shortly. On that note, I've replaced the rubber type tracks provided in the kit with these T62 steel ones, which were preferred by the British for their off-road capabilities. A variety of different types were used on the Achilles, so there's not many wrong answers with this one. Anyway, back to it. A healthy coat is added over the whole length, ensuring all the nooks and crannies are painted. Next step is a healthy coat of the dark rust wash. This will give a good dark rusty base for the lighter effects to come shortly. The light rust is next. This time though, I am a little bit more random with the application, adding spots in areas surface rust would likely form. Whilst the tracks cure, I add some of the light rust to the track cleats, spare links and the tow cable. I want these to look proper rusty. Now the rust wash is dry, I come in with a pigment wash, the same colour I added to the lower hull. Just like the lower hull, this is about adding layers of the wash, drying it with a hairdryer, carefully this time, and repeating until we are happy with the result. To add some fresh dirt, I mix a slurry using Mr. Weathering Paste and White Spirit, and again add sporadically to areas mud would get stuck. I'm whizzing through these stages a tad, but I do have a full tutorial series coming out soon with all of these processes in it, so stay tuned for that. At this stage, I was pretty happy with the amount of dirt on the tracks. We can always add some more later once fitted if we feel it needs it. The last process for the tracks is my favourite, yep, the graphite. Being steel tracks, I am adding a worn shine to the inside, where the wheels will be in constant contact. This is then blended with a cotton bud. The outside is my favourite though. Just by rubbing the graphite stick along the track face, it adds a worn shine to all the surfaces that would make contact with the road. I mean, look at that. Beautiful stuff. Viva la graphite stick. The tracks can now be fitted to the Achilles for the final time. And that is where I am going to leave this video. A lot was accomplished over these 2 weeks, but still a small mountain to climb in the final Achilles 44 episode to get this diorama done for competition day. Next up is the final push, adding the final details to the Achilles and to the diorama itself. We'll also find out if it got finished in time and how it fared on the day. I just want to thank you all for your support on this project so far. If you haven't done already, please do smash those like and subscribe buttons, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and check out my Patreon. I am putting some exciting extras on there currently and building it up week after week. There's also loads of links in the description for all the modelling gear shown in this video. But that's enough rambling for one day. Thank you all for watching, and happy modelling everybody.